This is Blenderstyle, the show where we discuss a blend of heavy and extreme music. On this episode, Seven Spires, Gods of Debauchery. This album's released in 2021 on Frontiers Records. Cheers, gentlemen.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
This is a fan pick. If you have an album you want us to review, write it in the comments or get us on social media. I remember seeing the video for Gods of Debauchery, the title track, which includes the intro before it, which is cool when bands do that, so the video's longer.
Yeah, I think this was shared on our group chat and then beginning, maybe middle of last year sometime.
Yeah, and that first song, that video, the song is dope as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, let's do it.
Okay.
Casey, were you familiar with it before that one track?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them. I put it on my list, but I never even looked at it. So somebody requested this, huh?
Yeah, on our YouTube channels in one of the comments.
I'd heard the one track, and that's about it.
And then you ordered the vinyl.
I actually did, yes.
Have you even opened it yet?
No, it's still in the shrink wrap.
Yeah. Nathan, are you familiar with Seven Spires?
No, I am not.
So this is like symphonic metal.
Yeah.
But with like heavy death metal, black metal influence and hella lyrics.
And pop,
even like prog,
rock.
even sounding. Like it gets pretty progressive at times with the guitar work.
It's like melodic parts. Like there's a lot of interesting. So these guys, a couple of them at least, went to Berkeley Institute for Music or whatever it's called.
Oh, so they're learned.
They're
learned
musicians.
And they're young too. They were like in their, when they started, this is their third album.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's like a theme, right? There's like
it's part 3 of a story.
A story, because she's like a poet on her website, Adrienne Cohen.
Okay.
And she went to Berkeley, so she's learned.
Mm-hmm.
And she, at least one other person in the band, I don't recall who went there as well.
Okay.
And they all started the band young as shit, like in their early 20s. And they're writing this pretty fucking sophisticated music.
Yeah, the music is really well written.
This reminds me of like Cradle of Filth in a way. I feel like these guys are just going to
Borgir and stuff.
So I watched an interview with her, and there's some Dimmu Borgir influences for her for sure. Mm-hmm. I just feel like they're going to just release banger after banger of albums.
Yeah, so I have to agree. The musical part is super well done and deep. I don't know if I feel that way about the lyrical melody. Not so much like the lyrical content, because like I said, they're like you said, they're telling a story, and this is continuation of the first 2 albums. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there's some weird, like almost Disney sounding melodies in the vocal patterns, which is weird because some of these parts, it's still got that symphonic metal thing going on in the background, but then like the vocal patterns and melodies sound like something you'd hear on like where the princess is, singing about how bad her day is or something. Or
I also wrote here,
Love's Lost or whatever.
Sounds Christian. These are like vampire Christians, like vampires that are saving themselves till they're dead and married.
Yeah, I kind of think she would dig that, dude.
Yeah, probably.
I feel like that's kind of the vibe here.
I think I'm going to write that story.
So did you...
I hope you do.
So did you read the story?
No, I didn't go that deep into it. I read a lot of the lyrics.
Okay, so when you posted that this was part of a... on our group chat, when you posted this was a part of a trilogy, I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I was already kind of reading the lyrics, and to me they didn't make a lot of sense. And then I went back and read that story because it's posted on their website under the lore page or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. It's weird. Kind of gets out there towards the middle and the end of it. And once you read it, a lot of the lyrics make sense. But it's weird to be.
What do you mean?
To think
what's weird?
Yeah,
it's weird to think
Disney.
Well, Disney's very weird.
Yeah, Disney's weird. Let's be honest.
But it's weird to think that far ahead on your musical endeavor, I think.
Like, it's smart as fuck.
It's smart. It's super smart. But I mean, you really got to be into like music, really into it to sit there and say, I'm gonna create a concept that's gonna span 3 albums. What
Is this all the same members throughout the 3 albums?
I think it's consistent, yeah.
I think so, but I mean, this band was formed in 2013. This is their 3rd album.
That's what I mean, dude.
Which is the 3rd album of their story. So they had to be thinking of this overarching story since at least 2013. To think that far in advance as a band, I mean, what if the band broke up? Are they just going to end the story, or are they still going to put something out?
No, that's what I mean.
Blood oaths, dude. They have blood oaths.
That's what I mean. I feel like they're like a...
I mean, Boston's pretty close to Salem, so maybe they...
Salem's in Boston, or in Massachusetts, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe they got some like witchcraft going on.
Bette Midler's their next door neighbor.
She has a wide range of vocals. Like it's symphonic metal in that she does some of that kind of stuff like Epica and those other symphonic metal bands do. But she's also doing like black metal, death metal kind of vocals. She really has like different modes that she steps through. In
She's like a female Axl Rose with her vocal range and patterns. Like she does like this, like you said, this kind of death metal growl, this demony kind of voice, this higher pitch, almost Epica thing, this pop, post-pop kind of sound thing. It's weird. She's got a ton of vocal range, and it all sounds really good.
And it's pretty clear that she's like practiced. Like she spends a lot of time, practicing her vocals and getting it dialed in and whatnot.
Yeah, that's one of the things I actually like about it is the diverse vocal.
Me too, for sure.
I really love that my likes are when this album gets dark and heavy. That's my favorite parts.
I agree with you. I think those are the parts that really shine the most on this album.
Me too, the heavier parts. I listened to some of their earlier stuff too, and it's more like symphonic metal.
Okay.
Lighter stuff. She still does that crazy good vocals that are like creepy and whatnot. But this one's more brutal for sure.
I like how professional it sounds also.
That's what I mean, like the comparison with like Cradle of Filth. You know what I mean? It's like polished that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I just love the guitar work as well. Those are my likes.
Yeah, there's some really good guitar work throughout this. Some sweet solos and some sweet like sections. The production values really good on this. It's almost up there, like you said, with like a Cradle of Filth production value. It's really good for how much stuff's going on. I think it's really, really good.
I believe they actually came out with an album and then, COVID happened, and then they went in and they recorded this album.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So they had like time off. And
I heard they had like a tour.
We're just gonna...
They had a tour and it was canceled, and they were like, "Oh, well, let's just go record."
Yeah. So it sounds like they definitely took their time with this record.
I really like the drum sound on this and the performance. It's like the first instrument you kind of hear on this, and it's like, and this dude can fucking play. He plays in some other death metal band I can't think of right now that's like pretty demanding on drums.
Okay.
And he can fucking throw down, bro. I'm pretty impressed by the drumming on this.
I agree. I think the drums are great on this, but it kind of leads me to one of my dislikes. They're not loud enough. I really feel like the drums kind of take a back seat.
It's very vocal forward.
Yeah, it's very vocal forward. Even like the guitars to that point, the drums and the guitars, they're really pushed to the back, especially on the more like poppy sounding songs. It's like super in your face with the vocals, and everything seems to be kind of muffled back behind everything, which is my main complaint about the production quality. And I don't know if that's just because her voice is so loud and they just couldn't get it any lower or what, but I feel like that's one of like the downfalls of this album is I'd really like to hear that stuff that's going on in the background because there's great guitar work and stuff, but it's just not there on a lot of it.
In my notes, I wrote that it was like poppy, and I couldn't really figure out why it was. There's like some repetition that bugs me. There's like earworm parts in this. I'm like, they don't need to repeat that so many times. Lightbringer bugs me. I love this song.
The worst song on
but
this album.
It's the best song and the worst song at the same time.
Yeah, I agree.
But what you're saying about like the mix being kind of vocal front, like we're used to death metal. It's like everything's kind of blended and it's like a wall of sound. And this is like everything's kind of EQ'd perfully.
Yeah.
And it has that pop sensibility. And that's one of my dislikes for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't like pop music.
It's way too clean.
Yeah, I'd rather hear these guys play in a garage. You know what I mean?
So one of my dislikes is that the clean vocals get so annoying to me Like, I think she kind of beats it a little too much.
I,
Because for sure, I think, because I like the heavier, darker
Mhm.
parts of it. And, I like that type of music more, you know what I mean?
I
And
feel
I do like the clean vocals, but like the beginning of the album starts out real heavy and forward and symphonic, even black metal sounding at times, and then it just kind of drags on to like a lot of clean singing, and then like a poppy sounding song, and then a lot
Mhm.
more clean singing, and I was just like,
And see, I agree with you. So I like this album starts off super strong, like in
Mhm.
your face, real up front, and you're like, this is going to be great. Then about 5 tracks in or whatever, it switches to like this kind of pop feel vocal style, but with a symphonic black metal backbeat that's way muffled out, like way drowned out by the vocals. And I don't even know that it's necessarily like bad. I think if they bring that up, it might portray the
I
style.
like what they're doing. Yeah.
I like what they're doing, but I think it would portray the style that they're going for a little bit more because I'm with you. I feel like the vocal patterns on this are what make it feel super poppy because her clean vocals are great.
Mhm.
Like if her clean vocals were reverbed and like more in the mix, like deep into it, not like on top of it,
because
it would sound dope as shit.
and then like I said, the vocal melodies and patterns that she uses, they remind me of a Disney like sing along, like when they get him to the scenes in Disney
See,
movies.
this is a dislike for me.
No, I know that's a total dislike for me.
Yeah, okay.
But it just for some reason it reminds me of that, and I don't know what does it because this was like a really hard one for me to like.
It's like a frozen metal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like metal but frozen.
Yeah.
It's also 16 tracks and 1 hour and 17 minutes long.
77 minutes, yeah. It's way too long.
Okay, so for that long and that many tracks, it's not that diverse. Like, it does not need to be, like you said, it just doesn't need to be that long at all.
I 100% agree. I
don't think a lot really actually happens within an hour.
I don't agree that it's not diverse, though. I think it's diverse, but it's not diverse in a good sense. I think it's diverse in the fact that they could probably drop 3 or 4 of these tracks and have a manageable album that tells the same story and does just as good, but it's more consistent. I think there's a lot of pacing issues because of those kind of pop-filling songs, and it drags the whole album down. But I 100% agree with you. Like
those are like little snippets, though.
They are, but I feel like it's way too long. That Lightbringer song, that thing's like 5 minutes of
Gods of Debauchery is a kick-ass song.
Oh, for sure.
The Cursed Muse is a kick-ass song.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow on an Endless Sea is all right. Dare to Live is pretty badass.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got like a dozen more songs.
Yeah, I got Oceans of Time.
But I don't care about those dozen other songs.
I got Oceans of Time is another good track on there, but I think all the same tracks that you just listed are the ones I listed.
Mm-hmm. I know most people would probably say this is the best thing about this, but the vocals are the worst thing about this for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a little too Disney, Frozen, look at me. I'd rather hear more of the band.
Even like her like more guttural vocals.
That stuff's tight. But I guarantee you she's not going to do more of it. So this band is going to for sure continue on, and they'll have less and less heavy vocals.
I feel like there's more of it in this album. At least it's sensed it than in the previous ones.
Huh. Dude, there's some parts in this that are badass and dark and like awesome sounding.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But like the lighter stuff is just a big no-go for
because there's a lot of lighter stuff and little bits of pop and little bits of the heavy part for me.
I think I'm kind of where you're at with it. I think there's too much of the lighter stuff, but I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think it's just a mixing issue. I think, like you were talking about, if they bring the band up and drown the vocals in the back a little bit more, it wouldn't be so bad. Because right now it comes off as a Evanescence song.
Well, yeah, that's a good comparison.
This is Evanescence.
Yeah. So Nate, you definitely don't like the vocals, but what do you give it for a rating?
I give it a 3.2 because the stuff that is good on here, I think it's enjoyable. And if they do go and do a little bit more of the heavier stuff and the symphonic, this reminds me of like early 2000s like symphonic black metal.
The good stuff.
What I mean? Like bands were like kind of coming out with it, and I think I like those parts. So I give it a 3.2.
So I give this a 3.5 out of 5. I think I agree with you. I think the heavier stuff's way better. I think with more time, it might get more interesting because I kind of like you said, there's these earworm songs that get stuck in your head. And even though they're not my style, I catch myself singing them afterwards. Um, I just have a hard time wrapping my head around the pop rock kind of feel over symphonic black metal background.
See, we see a lot of these bands now, and maybe it's for a younger generation. Maybe I am, people aren't supposed to like different generations of music, but newer bands now throw everything at it. They're doing. I'm sure that's probably because of the musicianship. People are getting better and better at songwriting and stuff. But when it goes from like heavy, radio friendly, poppy, too much of that, I mean, it doesn't have an identity. It just kind of
I feel like I don't understand it.
Yeah.
It must be like our parents when they're like,
I don't
turn
get a
that
deep
loud music
feeling
off.
from it. You know what I mean?
I think maybe it's something that would grow on me, but I right now I don't get it. What about you, Matt? What did you rate this?
I give this a 4.0 out of 5.
Okay.
I think it is a deep album. I think the more I like really listened into it, it's like there's parts of it musically that play to other parts earlier. It does connect to the previous two albums.
That was one part that I really liked about it.
I read the lyrics and they read like poetry.
There's a lot of callbacks to the first albums in the lyrics too on this.
And there is musically too. And she's like writing this shit on purpose, you know what I mean? And I think the more you kind of dig into it, it is kind of a progressive album. I wish they would be more progressive and like ditch the pop shit because I don't like that either. And if this is like considered symphonic metal, 100% they're the best band doing it. Epica and those kind of bands are fine, but they're not as heavy as this is.
Yeah, this mixes the metal part with the symphonic. It's not just symphonic over metal.
I wish they'd just like dial the rawness up, right? And make it like more guttural and like fucked up sounding and really dive into that and like take the Disney's out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is good. I think it's great, and I'm relating this to like bands like Cradle of Filth. I feel like they have the work ethic to just really just keep pushing and doing the hard work. It's like hard work paying off. This is an example of that band. I give them a 4.0.
Yeah, maybe I need to listen to it more, and maybe I need to listen to the next album. You know what I mean?
This is Blenderstyle. That was Seven Spires, Gods of Debauchery.
Pleasure spiked with pain.